Welcome everyone to the Veterans Who Build show. Today's guest has a very interesting story. Artillery operator stationed in Germany shortly after the Berlin Wall fell. Rockstar turned entrepreneur turned marketing guru who is about to release a book on marketing in the AEC space. A first degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and overall awesome person. I'd like to take the opportunity to remind you all to please subscribe to our channels, comment, like, and review YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Jet.Build. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Ryan Kovach. Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build. Welcome everyone to the Veterans Who Build show. Today, we got an awesome guest. I'm excited to tell you how we connected in a very special way, in my opinion, something that I recommend to anyone in any form of business. Everyone, please welcome Ryan. Ryan, thank you for joining, man.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. So, before we kick off, I want to touch on how we connected. Me being active on LinkedIn and the LinkedIn environment, just trying to push, business and thought and awareness and such of my brand and what I'm doing. I saw you post a really interesting note about marketing and, just creating that brand awareness, creating business funnel, so on. And in your note on LinkedIn, in your post, you said, reach out and we'll have a consultation conversation. And that's what kicked off our relationship. It was super valuable conversation.
Good.
Highly recommend people to connect with Ryan on that front. How did that go for you, man?
It was great. And that post actually generated a lot of conversations that are still going on to this day, and some negotiations even with some potential new customers and things like that. So it was great, and just always happy to share knowledge and help people. Right? So
absolutely, man. Power of LinkedIn. I always tell people around me at any level, right? You can just start building your own brand. You could build a brand for your business. It's a super powerful tool. And that's how we got connected to have this conversation today. So
yeah, what do they say? Richard Branson has 27 followers, and Virgin has 2 million. So
exactly.
The brand usually is the guy, right? Or
exactly.
The girl.
People want to follow the person and the story versus a brand and a company, right? Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Also, I'm going to give a formal introduction to Ryan. Ryan served as an active duty 13 Mike MLRS operator in Bamberg, Germany. Today, Ryan operates as a fractional CMO for the construction and engineering sector with 25 plus years at a director and CMO capacity. Last but not least, Ryan is a winner of 5 ASA Overall Excellence Awards. Ryan, we got to hear about, and we will get to that, right? We'll touch on it.
Sure.
Want to hear about that award, what that means.
Sure.
It sounds really interesting. But before we get to business, before we get to career, we like to start in that chronological order, like we chatted about. Let's hear about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, and what led you to your service.
Yeah, great question. So I grew up in a town called Blue Mound, Texas, and for anybody that knows that area, it would probably be politely described as a ghetto. And it legitimately is. A single mom, a father left when I was 2. She just busted her butt to do everything she could to raise 2 boys the best that she could. Growing up, pretty aimless, raised myself, cooked my own food, walked myself home after school, that kind of thing. And my mom would pop in, late at night and kiss us goodnight and go to bed. Right. So that was the way that I was brought up, and wouldn't have it any other way. Great mom, worked her butt off, to do the best that she could. So that area is just right outside of Fort Worth, Texas. So it's just a small little suburb. and kind of born and raised here. And outside really of my stint in the military, moving around, I've been here the whole time.
Hmm.
So
What went on in childhood that kind of led you to wanting to serve, led you to your service?
yeah, I mean, my family's always, I mean, from my aunts and uncles, everything. I mean, we're a pretty patriotic family, and it was
Hmm.
always looked up upon, for people that served, right? I mean, we had a lot of
Hmm.
respect for the people that served. There was several, uncles and people close to me that had served in Vietnam and things of that nature, and I was just always really appreciative of those guys
Hmm.
and looked up to them, for that service. And then in reality, once I graduated high school, I was a musician, I was a creative guy, and just didn't have a lot of direction in
Hmm.
where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. So, my mom, being the type of person that she is, came in and said, "What are you going to do? You're not going to lay around here and play video games or, whatever. You're going to either get a job or join the military or whatever." And I was like, huh, yeah, I mean, I guess the military sounds great. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I wish there was a more purposeful reason, but it was really a way to go out and try to become a man.
Yeah. I want to interject there and say my takeaway, as you mentioned, wishing there was a more purposeful reason. Well, my takeaway in what you just said was, you always respected and had appreciation toward veterans, being in your family
Yeah,
as well. So, I hear what you're saying is that, right? Is just,
yeah, yeah.
having respect toward veterans, toward
It just
military.
sounded like it.
And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It sounded like it. I mean, once she kind of raised that option, I
Mm,
was like, yeah. I mean, why not? Like, I mean, I can
yeah.
go do that now. I'm 18 years old, so it sounded like a great option. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to highlight that kind of point where I hear a lot of veterans kind of I don't know, not wanting to, for whatever the reason is, to have pride or say, yeah, I am a veteran, like, yeah, I did serve, right? And I want to suggest that we become a little bit more prideful over having served, over that
Hmm.
experience,
Hmm.
because it's deserved, right? I mean, that's how we
100%.
should feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
100%.
So
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah,
take us through.
enjoyed it.
Sorry. Go. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Take us through, please. Enlisting. What was that like? How did that process
Mhm.
go?
Yeah, so I mean, I immediately went and got with a recruiter and signed up. I mean, as fast as I could and fast tracked it right in. And I ended up in Fort
Mm,
Sill, Oklahoma, for boot camp and AIT. And honestly, thoroughly enjoyed that process. Like,
mm,
the entire boot camp and AIT process, um, was intense, obviously, a culture shock for me,
mhm,
obviously, just, arriving on a cattle car, not knowing where I'm going. They bust the door open and, drill sergeants are in your face and there's your barracks, right? Um, but that whole process was a lot of fun. And then after that, I got my orders, and that was to go to Nuremberg, Germany. So I was only in, just had barely gotten settled in Nuremberg. And this was right around 91, 92. Clinton, the Berlin Wall had just barely come down. Clinton
mm,
had just got elected and just started shutting down bases and closing down bases. And so the base was right outside of Nuremberg in a place called Erlangen.
mm,
They were going to shut that one down. So I immediately moved to Bamberg, and uh, that's where I stayed for the rest of my time over there, and loved it. Had a wonderful time in Germany. It was during, most of it was on the tail end of the first Desert Storm. So there was a little
mm,
bit of world tension going on, but for the most part, mostly served in peaceful times, and made lifelong friends, earned lifelong skills that stick with me today. In fact, like, to this day, at least once, we try twice a year. I get with the guys that I went to boot camp with and was stationed in Germany
mm,
with, and we go camping still. We all fly in somewhere and meet up and camp, and just there's a group thread that's been going on for 20 years on text with all the funny stuff going back and forth. You know, one's in Connecticut, one's in Kansas, one's in Pittsburgh, and I'm here in Texas. That thread is just epic. You know, it's just been going on forever. And so we try to get together and see each other and camp out and relive our days and all of that. So, I mean, it's just priceless, right?
Right on. Yeah. That's amazing. Love to hear kind of that takeaway, right? Which is really relationship. It's really amazing the types of relationships that can be built from military experience.
100%.
Before we even continue on with that, I want to take kind of a little bit of a step back and ask you about what Germany was like in that, exact environment, right? I mean, I'm sure there were some unique dynamics that were happening there, given the landscape and the timing.
Yeah. So the Berlin Wall had come down a couple of years before I got there. Desert Storm, the war itself started while I was in AIT. By the time AIT was done and I got to Erlangen, my unit was still deployed over there, but the war had already been basically won, right? It was a very short, quick, down and dirty situation. And, so for the first probably 4 weeks, the base was somewhat a ghost town, just waiting on everybody to come back. And then everybody eventually that was deployed came back to the base. So during that little period of time, it was a lot of guard duty at the gate, checking IDs and pulling 12-hour shifts because the base was fairly empty. I mean, it was pretty empty until everybody came back because I was on a field artillery base, and so as you can imagine, every piece of equipment and everything was over there, right? So, so yeah, I mean, that was interesting. And then after everything settled down and I got moved to Bamberg, quite frankly, I tried to assimilate into the German culture as much as I could. I went to the German restaurants, the German clubs, and I wasn't the guy that stayed on the barracks or on the base. I didn't go to the Green Goose, like where everybody went and fought, and it was just a bunch of GIs. I actually went to places I couldn't even pronounce and went inside those places and met lots of cool German citizens, and spent a lot of my time going out to eat and having beers and everything with those guys. And to this day, there's several of them that I'm connected with on Facebook, and we still stay connected. And they've gone on to be, some of them are doctors and engineers and all kinds of stuff. And so still very connected.
Awesome, man.
It's just
That's really cool.
It was a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. How about in those towns, right? When you were experiencing, the town itself and the people, did you kind of feel any, I mean, that's a monumental time in history for them, right? And generally speaking, like, was that felt at all, or is it already kind of too much out
what
there?
I felt is everybody was super cool to me. Obviously, most of them speak English. What I did see is, I was told early on by a couple of German guys I've made friends with, hey, grow your hair as long as you can in the military. Like, don't have the traditional buzz cut, right? Like, because you might not be totally welcome into some of the nightclubs and things like that. Just try to dress, more normal and have your hair more normal stuff. So there was some of that, but ultimately everybody was really cool. What I do remember being the most probably impactful situation over there, given the time, is I got into my car and I went across the line at Berlin from east to west, right? And because the wall hadn't been down long at all, just a couple of years, the difference. So on the west side, the freedom side, right? You see colorful buildings, plants, people outside sipping tea and having beers, and you hear music, and you just see art, and you see different types of cars and colors of cars, and there's all this color. I just remember that. And when you literally cross a literal line into east, every building was gray. There was no color. You would see the traditional looking German woman with the bags of groceries in her hands, walking with her head down. All of the cars were exactly the same color for the most part, minus a few shades. And there was no one outside doing anything. There was no art. There was no nothing. It
Hmm.
was, it was the time that I got to see communism, and
Right.
it was ugly.
Right.
It was
Wow.
ugly.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was curious about, and is what you just highlighted. Really, I don't know, incredible, shocking, or
It's
don't even know
shocking.
what the right word is, but to hear right and to hear how that kind of contrast existed,
And it's an
literally just
imaginary line.
line, right,
It's an
right,
imaginary line.
right.
You still saw some remnants of the wall and things like that. You saw the
Hmm.
graffiti on it, but the road's open. You can cross through. They were free. It was
Wow.
not communism anymore. The wall had fallen, but they still, the recovery time, to get past all of that. I remember that
Right.
searing in my brain of, oh my God. So yeah,
Yeah.
not a good
It's like
look,
you said,
man.
it's this recovery time. Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, there's no way that would be able to just change overnight, right? Recovery
No.
time, but wow, pretty unreal that you were able to just experience that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a unbelievable experience
Yeah.
and shift in history. Wow.
Yeah. It was nuts. So
Wow. All right, man. So what happens next then? So, walk us through any, I don't know, specific things that happen in that deployment. Walk us through post deployment. Tell, what comes to mind in that time frame.
So as I said, man, Clinton became in power, and
Hmm.
he, was shutting down a lot of bases. I moved one more time. It was to a smaller little group of barracks, just a couple of miles away from where I was in Bamberg, more of a temporary type place. Got settled in there. And then I, got some orders that, we were going to be moving again. But at the time, I'd been in it for a few years, and then they were just offering either come back to the States, do a new MOS, or get reassigned something,
Hmm.
or you could take an early out and get an early out bonus, still, have all of your benefits and I mean, they were just slashing the military at the time.
Wow.
So being a young guy, 22 or I mean
Hmm.
21, something like that, I'd moved so many times. It felt like to me, like in such a short period of time. And it kind of, for me, I was making friends in these towns. I was, getting absorbed and everything. And then
Hmm.
here we go, we're moving again. So, at that point, I actually opted to go ahead and take the early out in the bonus and come on back and go back to civilian life. So, I
So,
mean,
so
yeah.
walk us through that situation. So you get back to
Mhm.
uh, Texas, or you get back to
Yeah.
where? What happens
Texas.
next?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Mm.
got back to Texas and, fired back up, got back into the band I was in prior to going in with the guys I
Hmm.
grew up with. Interestingly enough, like we stayed together, started touring. We toured with a lot of big name acts like Sugar Ray, Filter, played with Pantera, several other big name acts, and got signed to a major record label deal. And I thought I was going to be a rock star. So for that point, um, yeah, my life was interesting. I was like, okay, we've been musicians our whole life. We played in a band together our whole life, and now I'm going to be a rock star. This is awesome. Just even the manager of Guns N' Roses was like a part of the deal of, signing the record label deal and all this other stuff.
No
And
kidding.
yeah, and unfortunately, a couple of the guys in the band went down the rabbit hole of drugs and all of
Mm.
this, and ended up one of the key singers in the band had an overdose and all that. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out. Because that
Yeah.
was supposed to be a passion of mine, and
Right.
it turned into to not fun. After that, I was still very young, not married, no kids. After that, while I was in the military, another big transformation, by the way, for anybody
Hmm.
who wants to hear a good success story. While I was in the military, so I grew up poor, dirt poor, a mom working her butt off at this staffing company for all these years, just like as an office manager, making no money at all. Um, you know, so while I was gone, and my brother was obviously older, so both kids were out of the home, she had time to focus on herself. So she went and started her own staffing company. So by
Mm.
the time I got back from the military, my mom had a multi-million-dollar company. that she was
Wow.
running, that she started
Amazing.
on her own out of the living room of our little ghetto 2-bedroom wood framed chain link fence house.
Amazing.
Yeah, and she eventually grew it into a large office and then multiple offices and everything else. So I went to work for her company, and she was
Amazing.
servicing the engineering division, the construction engineering side of
Mm.
things on staffing and recruiting. And I spent 10 years there and learned the business and grew into the general manager over 3 of her locations. That really started my my path down where I'm
Hmm.
at today. And so I just took my creativity, my musicianship, and my art, and all of that, and I just began learning how to build websites, like in the late '90s. Just and doing her marketing, and
Mm.
learned Photoshop, not Photoshop, but at the time it was like Coral Draw and all these other things, and learned how to do print ad layouts and everything. So I grew more into her marketing arm and
Hmm.
fell in love with that. And so eventually
That's
I
a
opened up an ad agency and grew it. And so that's where we're at.
amazing, man. But before we get to there, I'll take a little step back. I mean, first of all, amazing story. Great accomplishment by your mom, of course.
All right.
Really cool that's yeah, really cool that's how you ended up getting into the
Yeah.
space of the built environment where you're at now. But even before getting there, I wanted to ask a few things. One is what was your role in that band? Didn't catch that. And then second is more of a in-depth question was did you have any experiences to touch on from that transition between military and then
Mhm.
into civilian slash touring as a band?
Yeah. Yeah. So I played guitar.
Awesome.
So that was my role in there. And then I wrote a lot of the songs as well.
Hmm.
So I was on the writing side and the guitar side. The transition, where the military helped me, and I think it was a great thing, but it was also a source of a lot of frustration because I think you
Hmm.
shine a light on how, in my world, the band guys and the people I was surrounded with, how stark that they began to look lazy and undisciplined.
Mm.
So like when I came back, I was disciplined. Like I showed up on time. I had a work ethic. I had gone through, a lot of training to be reliable,
Hmm.
and somebody that you can count on. And it's not that they changed; they were always that way. It's just when I came back, what I learned is they haven't been through this. So their life
Hmm.
to me felt scattered, lazy, undisciplined, and all of that, right? So, there was a lot of you know frustration with me, like, guys, just be be more adult like let's be
Hmm.
professional.
Yeah.
So there was some of that. Now truly transitioning back into like the work world, where I think the military had the biggest impact on me, and I still say it today, is
Hmm.
it really gave me the it gave me the blueprint to be a good employee. Like, when you were previously in the military, things can be life and death.
Right.
Your behavior can have severe impact on not only you, people in your unit, but potentially even globally, right? Like the way you
Hmm.
behave, the way things happen, right? So lots counting on you. When you
Hmm.
when you take that work ethic and you come back to the civilian world and you keep that work ethic. I do see, unfortunately, sometimes people leaving the military and coming back and falling into their old self. If you can avoid that,
Right.
and keep that edge, that
Hmm.
that work ethic, showing up on time, being reliable. Yeah, maybe maybe the country isn't depending on you, but your company is, and the
Yeah.
people that
You,
work for your company, and the company's children,
mhm.
and there's a lot of people still relying on you to be that guy. So don't lose
You
that.
j- right. You just brought up a handful of amazing points, amazing advice, right? To take away with, to take from. It starts with that concept of shifting the recognition of military versus civilian slash professional, where you had this responsibility that had severe consequences to them in the military, right? So now it's understanding the kind of like delta, right? The expectation difference when you shift. And now what can you still take away? What can you still leverage from that military experience, but transition the relevance, right? The relevant, I don't know, percentage, right? The relevant
Yeah.
degree into your personal and professional life. And that allows you to then go ahead and have all of these amazing tools to work with, to work from in your career. So that's a great,
And I
great
think
point that you
realizing
made.
that people are still depending on you, like
Right.
just because you're
Mm.
a civilian doesn't mean that you don't keep that edge. There's still a lot of people depending on you. Your company is, your family is, your company's families. What
Mm-hmm.
you do affects a lot of people around you. So being that structured, disciplined, show up every day, even if you don't feel like it, be on time,
Mm-hmm.
know your weapons well, kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and all of that is going to make you a rock star in the civilian world because so many people lack that.
Mm-hmm. Very well said, man. Very well said. Yeah. It's people are still going to be depending on you, companies and all of the domino effect, all the externalities around that, they are all still depending on you. And the more
Yeah,
you give, right, the more take on, the more they will depend on you, right? So it's almost you have more control in the game of this, in the element of this, so long as you actually leverage, right, your experience, leverage your
yeah,
training and learnings.
yeah. Military people should just be rock stars in the work world. If you
Yeah.
if you continue to take
Mm-hmm.
that discipline and that understanding of the need of people around you, you
Yeah.
should be a rock star in any company you go to work for.
Awesome. Yeah. Well said, man. That's a great, great point. Great highlight. All right. So where we're at now, zooming forward a little bit, because you gave us that context of, right, you got back, you started to join your mom's company, and you're taking over the marketing efforts for, I think you said engineering firms mainly.
Say that again, Adam. It broke up just a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'm saying we're fast forwarding back to where you ended before we reverse course, right? Where you shifted from the music and band scene, and now you're working with your mom, helping her on the marketing side of things for
Mhm.
the engineering vertical in that company.
Mhm. Yeah, and I did that for, like I said, almost 10 years. And then
Mm.
I had such a passion for wanting to do the marketing, and it was very limited on what I could do at her company. So I asked her if it would
Mm-hmm.
be okay if I opened up a marketing agency in the back of her offices. So she had a huge office complex, and there was probably two or three empty offices that weren't being utilized. And I said, as long as I don't compete against you, can I niche out in this space and build out an agency. I just really want to be creative. I really want to
Mm-hmm.
utilize my skills in that arena. And she was like, absolutely. So that started me down the path of being my own entrepreneur. I
Mm-hmm.
was young. I had never run a business, didn't know, anything about that per se. I'd been in the family business, but I didn't know how to do it myself. So I learned a lot about
Mm-hmm.
that. But I ended up growing about a $3 million uh, marketing agency. And this was all prior to social media for the most part. I think MySpace was out and stuff like that, but nothing like we see today. So things were still
Mm-hmm.
pretty much ad agency model, print ads,
Mm-hmm.
the web was coming out and growing and all of that. So we did a lot of web development, got on the early days of SEO, print layout, ad layout, and all that. Grew that to about $3 million agency. And then '08 hit and market tanked. Everybody was having a bloodbath. And,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing to go is marketing. I mean, it's just the first thing people slash because it's considered, kind of an extra budgeted item, so to speak, which it shouldn't be, but they do. So
Right. Right.
I lost almost half of my business overnight. Ended up selling that agency to a couple of really young, like they were living in an apartment. They'd worked with me the whole time. They knew the customers. They were lean and mean. And so they took over the company. And now today it's like a 50-person agency in downtown Fort Worth. They did a great job. They saved the company over the years. And now they're doing wonderful and all of that. And so at that point, I just remained as an independent consultant in marketing for a couple of pretty large, I'd say a couple of $100 million, 500 million staffing and construction companies, just as an independent consultant, not doing any delivery work, just doing brain work. And I did that for years and made a very good living. Fast forward, now acting as a fractional CMO, kind of similar, except I do have a delivery team now. So if they need the work done, then we can deliver it as opposed to just consulting only. So
that's awesome, man. It's really interesting to me, and I'm intrigued by this question, which I'm going to ask in a moment, which is, where do you see the market in particular to, the AEC industry as it relates to marketing support, internal marketing teams, whether that be fractional agency or obviously internal, like I said, where does that stand? Because I don't think I see it very often at all.
Yeah, I hate to sound cliche, but you'll hear a lot of people in the space say that, the construction surrounding industries aren't super great at marketing because in their minds, it's all handshake and relationship work. And that is true. And to a certain degree, where I see things headed, I think has a lot to do with the workforce. And I'll tie this into marketing. With the workforce, the boomers are going away. I mean, they're retiring at a massive rate, and I mean we're on the last leg of their working years. That vacuum is massive, and then you have the Gen X. We were told, no way, blue collar. You go to college, you get the degree, you get the great office job and all that. So we didn't really buy into it. So you kind of have a vacuum there and everything else. So I think there's going to be a bloodbath when it comes to talent acquisition here very, very soon. And I think if companies don't get really, really serious about marketing, then they're going to have a tough time. And it's not about leads and new business and leads, which is what everybody talks about. It's not that. Marketing is a whole 360-degree deal that, if you're not presenting your company in a way that players want to go to work for, you're gonna scrape, and you're gonna scrape the bottom and all of that. And it's only going to get way worse than what it is today. So I always tell companies, marketing is a great way to say no. If you have a good pipeline of projects and potential, then you can get so much pickier and choosier, and you can say no to a lot of things that are the race to the bottom, right? So marketing allows you to do better projects, but also marketing, if I'm an A player and somebody's got a job position out there, job description out there on ZipRecruiter or whatever, and I research them and I don't see a really good story, if I don't see really good employer branding, if I don't see real case scenarios of people that work there that are saying good things about the company, that are happy to work for the company, that are cheerleading for the company, and all of that, man, I'm probably going to go down the list and find the one that does. And I think it's imperative to view marketing as more than just new business and leads. You've got to view it as branding. You've got to view it as a way to attract good talent. And then, of course, the other big one is your exit strategy. If you don't have good marketing, you don't have deep channel, penetration and all of that, the valuation of your business, if at a later date you want to sell it, isn't going to be near as valuable to a buyer as a company that really branded well and has deep tentacles into all the different channels. I mean, just is what it is. And so
that's an amazing perspective that I have yet to hear. And that's going on the workforce issue that exists. And that's only going to continue to become, worse, more of an issue, right? As we continue on and existing generations are,
and you can be doing good
retiring.
Today.
Branding, right?
Yeah, you can be doing good today and wake up and have your head in your hand, man. I'm telling you, no one's going to be immune to this.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's an amazing perspective that I think should, have some more light to it, have some more awareness around it, which is to say, if you're not branding your company, and I mean, this is actually, it's funny, this is kind of like an industry issue, right? The industry needs to start branded themselves as an attractive, business for younger generations to enter into. And if not, then who is getting hired, right? Who's going to be the workforce? I mean,
Yeah.
no one, right? So
No one.
that's an amazing kind of perspective to take as it relates to marketing in the built environment, AEC, et cetera. Branding. I mean, make your brand attractive so that you can retain, you can hire talent. That's good talent, right? And then
Right.
in addition to that, as you pointed out, that creates value for your brand, your business as a company, which of course is invaluable, right? I mean, that's
It's
the purpose
invaluable.
of having the
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. When
Wow,
you get
amazing call
tired and
outs.
want to go sit on your front porch and sip your tea and you're done, if it's Jimmy's Construction, and Jimmy didn't do a lot of branding, Jimmy's going to go to his porch and, if there's no kid or somebody to take over the company, it's done. Nobody's buying that. But if it's well branded and all that, you can probably buy a good buyer and have a great exit strategy.
Absolutely. And another thing you pointed out, which I find to be a very, I mean, it is extremely outdated, is that handshake model, right? Meaning, it's just relationship based, where on a very local, right, very granular level, fine, that makes sense, right?
Sure.
If you're only trying to be working in the literal city that you're involved with,
Sure.
if that's not a large city. But the moment you start looking to spread, how are you going to be doing handshake kind of, business at scale, right? I mean, you can't. You need support, right? You need to fill in gaps, and that's where marketing comes into play. So people need to wrap their heads around that as well.
Yeah, I have a good, real quick, a good case study on that. I had a client,
Please.
a loving, dear client. Just the first time we ever met, and we were going over potential plans and strategies. We brought up SEO and this and that. He's like, I don't want to even bother with that. That ain't going to work. Nobody's going to Google for me. I'm a big GC. I'm a this. I'm a that. I said, okay. I said, here's what you're probably not thinking. There's going to be a group in Saudi Arabia with a whole lot of money that wants to build something. You're in a hot market. You're in a big city. They're going to want to build something there, and they don't have the relationships of who they're going to use. They're from Saudi Arabia, or they're from Pakistan, or they're from India, or they're from somewhere, right? They don't have a handshake agreement with the GC firm. And what they're going to do is going to research who is the best GC firm in Dallas, Texas, or give me, they're going to Google a list of GC firms, large GC firms in Dallas, Texas, or whatever. Those are the ones that are going to get the RFP. If you're not coming up, you didn't get it.
To put some realness to that as well, really recently, I mean, it was about a month ago or maximum 2 months ago, there was that Japanese firm that purchased, I wish I remember the name top of my head, I think it starts with an H, Japanese home building firm that purchased one of the largest US home building firms to kind of merge and become one of the top 5 US home builders. I mean, your example, goes to the scale of what I just mentioned, right? That it spreads across all types of, scale in this built environment. I'm sure that they had some SEO and branding going on, right? That's what gave them the value.
It took a year, and we got them up, and they were really doing well on the SEO. And I was kind of sitting back going, God, I wish something would at least hit on this SEO, so they would at least have something. But they were coming up really nice and high. It hadn't produced anything yet, but lo and behold, it wasn't Pakistan or Saudi Arabia or India. But lo and behold, a group of private equity guys from New York were wanting to come in and build a huge multi-use facility. I mean, you're talking a $750 million. I mean, it's hotels, it's entertainment, it's restaurants, it's everything, right? And they Googled, Dallas GC firms, specialty and mixed use. And my client came up nice and center along with other people. But that RFP landed in his lap. He was able to send out at least get in the game on that bid, and actually won. He got the bid.
That's that's really an amazing story. And you pointed something out in terms of like time frame. I mean, it doesn't take 1 minute, right? I mean, it takes a minute to, for Google and for the other algorithms to read that you've actually started to do something and turn that kind of wheel.
Well, not only that, it's here's what I tell people. You're either never going to start branding, and that's okay. You probably are going to suffer in that talent acquisition thing here pretty soon, and you're not going to have a good valuation of your business when you're ready to retire or move on. But if you think you're going to start branding, you can start today, and it's probably going to take a year or two for it to get some mature roots. Or you can start in 5 years, and it's going to take a year or two to get some mature roots. So pick your time of when you want to do it. Like at some point, if you know you're going to get in the game, just get in the game, because the sooner you do, I believe your life becomes easier. You are building a pipeline of more options to say no to. You are building a better story for talent to recognize you and to come to work for you and to believe in you. And you're also building more visibility for those projects that are just the sneaky ones that you never would have been considered for if you weren't being found. So, what day do you want to start? Pick it, and just, it's going to take a while, but it's going to take a while in 5 years, or it's going to take a while today.
Totally with you.
Pick your while.
Just exactly. Yeah, you got to start somewhere, whether it's now or later. It'll always need
It's always
that
there.
ramp up period. So where did these awards come into play?
Yeah, so the ASA is the American Staffing Association. I know there's an ASA group for construction, but it's the American Staffing Association. And each year, what they have is they call it their Voice Awards for overall excellence in marketing, and they pick several categories. It'll be for entire campaigns, right? Like if somebody runs like an entire campaign on print, web, video, blah blah blah, right? It can be on just web design, period, like the best websites. It can be on the best social strategy, and so forth and so on. What happens is your clients have to submit their work that you've done for them. So as an agency, I don't submit my work, right? But it's nice. It looks good on their websites and on their stuff too, that they won an ASA Voice Award too, right? So I'm always encouraging them, if I think the campaign or whatever we did for them, looks good, to submit it. And, they have 29,000 members in the US. I mean, it's a big organization. You've got multi-billion-dollar staffing companies all the way down to a lot of mom and pops. So over the past, 20 years, we've submitted a lot of work. It's very difficult to win that because you're just up against everybody. But I've won it. I've won it 5 different times. 2 in the area of web design, 1 in the area of full campaign, and then 1 in the area of just a singular video commercial that we created. And I think that's it. Something like that. So yeah.
That's amazing, man. Congratulations. That's a testament to your work where this award is based on client submitting. I think that's an awesome kind of strategy, right, in producing these awards. I mean, that's kind of like the best way you can.
One year that I won the website, I mean, I think in that particular category alone, there was like 5,000 submittals. So, wow. I mean, 5,000 different companies had their new website, and everybody wants that badge, like this website won the overall excellence, right? So like, there was like 5,000 submittals too. So to get the #1 slot on that was cool. And so I'm proud of those awards. There's a lot of competition gunning for them. There's a lot of submittals, and to walk away with 5, I don't know too many people that in that industry that have been able to replicate that.
Yeah, really amazing. Congratulations for winning those. That's a great accomplishment. The next question was going to be career wins. I'll presume that those go in the career wins bucket. Do you have anything else that I don't know comes to mind? And it's obviously okay if those are the career wins, because those are major accomplishments.
The story I told earlier of the 2 young guys that I mean, these were young. When I say young, like I was young. At the time when I sold my agency in 2008. I mean, I say I was young. I was, early 30s or whatever.
It's young.
But these guys were like 20, 22.
Yeah.
Like I hired them when they were like 16 and stuff. They were just really whiz bangs at, all the latest technology and everything else. And, they were just kids, right? And, just when I was looking for a buyer for my business, because it's still at about a million in revenue going. I mean, went from 3 to a million. For me, it was a bloodbath and treacherous and horrible.
Right.
For them, they were like, we can take over $1 million company. Like, oh my God, so they were all excited. At first, I didn't even think about them. I was like looking for some guy in a suit to buy it,
Right.
but they really wanted it. And it was just so great. Like to fast forward to today. I mean, we're talking, 16 years later. They're on they're on Magnolia Street in downtown Fort Worth in a 2-story, swanky, cool, artsy building with 50 something people on their staff and killing it. Like that's huge. Like to know that that was the, the stepping stone for them. My misfortune was the stepping stone for them to change their lives, man. It was cool.
Yeah.
So that was a
really
win.
Cool. Yeah, hell yeah. Those are awesome wins. I guess that's 6 wins, right? You got 5 awards plus that story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah.
All right, flipping from the business side of things and then into some personal stories, advice as we close out. So we're going to touch on a wellness, practice, routine, things you do, things you'd advise others to do. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I am a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Got my black belt 4 years ago. Just actually got my first degree on my black belt. So I've been training that for about 14 years.
Amazing.
Got into that. Fell in love with the art. Ended up competing at really all belt levels. I did a couple of pro fights that were televised on, like Flow Grappling and, in front of a couple of thousand people in big auditoriums and all of that. That was a cool experience. But, from a health standpoint, yeah, you can get banged up. There's broken ribs and toes and, you break your nose here and there, chip a tooth, whatever. But in reality, just that iron sharpens iron, just really wrestling and grappling with other big, strong, grown men. And both of you are trying to simulate each other's death, kind of keeps you very healthy and sharp. So I do that. And
That's
then awesome. I do have a gym, go to a public gym, but have a gym in my garage that pretty regularly I go out and I mean, I try to work out to exhaustion. It's good for my mental state tremendously. Burns a lot of aggression and just gets the day's, stuff out. So I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in, my diet. I try to eat very, very clean, very healthy. I cook most of my foods at home, very rarely eat out. And if I do, I still try to eat somewhere that's healthy. So for me, and then recently, I think the newest thing for me on top of those things, because I'm starting to show my age here, I've really gotten into walking, which, I thought was kind of lame there for a long time, seeing all the old people walking around the neighborhood with their dogs and stuff. But a good walk is great for you. And then, of course, in the last year or so, I've really gotten into the fit mind, where breathing techniques, meditation, not Eastern philosophy meditation at all, just general, breathing and meditation and just kind of chilling the mind out. And I recommend that highly to anybody that's not gotten into that. It has been life-changing for me.
Oh man, that was diverse bust wellness practice and experience. I think that the black belt deserves a space in the career win as well. I want to throw that in there.
That was a hard one to get, man. I don't know if anybody knows about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it's a tough black belt to get, man. It's one of the more guarded. Yeah. It's one of the more guarded belts in martial arts.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get that thing.
Yeah. So that goes in the career win bucket as well. And you touched on that walking, right? It's really interesting, you know, how, I don't know, beneficial it is for you. Just, I mean, think about it even like mentally, right? I find that it allows me to just come up with ideas, not even intentionally. Just go
Yes.
for a walk for a few minutes, and all of
Yep.
a sudden, like, head clears and think of
Hmm.
things that you were otherwise stuck on. So,
Yeah,
totally with you on that front. And then breath work, also an amazing tool that, similar to
it is.
walking, right? It only takes a few minutes. Breath work even easier, right? You can do that anywhere, always.
Anywhere.
And it's funny how easy it is to forget to breathe, right? We're all
Yes.
breathing subconsciously to a level where we're not going to fall and pass out, but that doesn't mean we're breathing to the extent that we can be, right? Filling our bellies,
Yeah.
filling our chests, right, with air, right, with breath,
With
allowing our
air.
brain to have air.
Yeah, and oxygen to it, which clears the mind and
Exactly.
makes you sharper, and you will sleep better
Mm-hmm.
tremendously. The sleep difference is what I noticed. And then just the
Mm.
clarity of mind has gotten so much clearer since implementing those strategies. And,
Yeah.
I never thought back in the day I'd be one of those guys that would sit on the floor and breathe. But I can tell you, if you're not doing it, give
Yeah.
yourself 5 minutes, download an app or something that
Mm-hmm.
templates the breathing, and just follow it. You'll see tremendous difference in a lot of areas of your life. It's weird. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy, but it's
100%.
it's great.
It's one of those things that's like easy to poke fun at until you try it, and then you realize
Yep.
why, so many people do it, so many cultures have never left it. Absolutely agreed. Awesome, man. That's a great breadth of wellness practice. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You bet.
Next piece is we move on to books that you recommend. One book, multiple books.
Yeah. So one I go back to a lot is As a Man Thinketh. Yeah, it's As a Man Thinketh. It's a little difficult to read just because it's in a more of an old English format, but it is a tremendous book. It is all about your thoughts precede your actions. Poor thoughts
Mm,
create not, and this is, surface level to it. It digs a lot deeper.
sure.
And we all know this: negative thoughts are negative, right? That's not revolutionary. But just the way that it explains the toxicity of your thoughts, and who you
Mm,
become as an actual person are your thoughts, and how to overcome negative thinking if that's a problem for you, how to control your thoughts, and things like that. So that's what I go back to. And so I would highly recommend that one. And
yeah.
then, for me, this is just a personal choice. I spend 15 minutes a day in the Bible. So
Mm. Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome recommendations. That was
Also
in a,
In
please,
June
please.
though, I'm going to recommend the book that I'm finishing up. I'm writing.
There you go. That's all. I mean, first of all, give us the title and the thesis, and then last is when that's ready. We're going to drop it in the
Yep.
show notes. We could always, go back and
Yeah,
add it if we release the
for
episode
sure.
before it releases. So yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's called How to Win the War on Talent in Construction.
Mm,
And it's a very comprehensive guide. I mean, it's going to be about 100 to 110,000 words. So that's
mm,
in single space. That's about 220 pages. So it's a novel, basically.
mm-hmm,
The way that it's categorized is it'll start with the history of, old school marketing and construction and how it got its start, and, all the way through where it is today. But that's just more of a history lesson just to fill people in. But
mm-hmm,
beyond that, the categories are very specific, going in from, social media to SEO to branding to talent acquisition to, the use of all the various tools and AI and everything else. And so I've kind of
mm-hmm.
made it out to be a resource, as opposed to, you don't have to read it from front to back. Like, if
Right.
you and your team are sitting down and you want to know, like, what can we do right now with content? Like, what should our
Mm-hmm.
content strategy be? Your marketing team, your owner, whoever you're using, could literally just flip over to that chapter and have a full blueprint of content strategy, like from start
That's
to
really cool.
finish. So it's more of a reference that you can use. You could read it front to back, but you don't have to.
That's really awesome, especially because, as we close out here, I was going to highlight that concept, right? That necessity to start leveraging marketing for talent acquisition and retention.
Yes.
And here you are bringing up basically the textbook, the template of how you do that. So that's really awesome. I'm excited
And
for that
everything
to
is
release.
designed to be so like if you go to the content section, it's going to be a full strategy on how to use your content to attract talent. So the book is about attracting talent. If you go to AI, it's going to be all the various tools that are here or that are being implemented, that can help you attract and give the candidate a better candidate experience and onboarding and all of that, right? So like everything is geared towards attracting better talent, but it's all categorized, if that makes sense. So
yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, out of curiosity, is there a way for people to, I don't know, pre-order or sign up for the release or something so that, go ahead.
Yeah, there's going to be, I'll have a pre-order link. And the reason I don't know what that is yet is I'm deciding between two different services. So the way that I'm going to do this will be on demand. So like they can just order it and the companies that I'll use will just print and ship, right? Instead of me going and trying to buy 500 or 1,000 of them and manually shipping them and dealing with all of that, it's going to be less expensive to go through the on-demand companies, right? So I'd rather do it that way. And it's a toss-up between which company I'm going to use. So once I know that, then we'll have a pre-order link. And again, like this will be great for marketing companies to buy and just use it as a blueprint for their customers. An owner of a construction company or a engineering firm or whatever could buy it, or a tech company, recruiting and staffing companies that want to that are working as recruiters in the construction industry and want to sell their clients better can use it as a really good resource. So the audience is really not just people in construction. It can be other marketing firms. It could be recruiting companies, or it could be the owner that wants to see the blueprint and then tell his in-house marketers, hey, I want to follow this plan.
That's really awesome. I'm excited for that release. I know people listening got to be excited for that release. It sounds like an awesome set of information, very needed. Granted, it could work for whatever industry. It is certainly very needed in the built environment industries.
100%.
Plug it in. Yeah, plug it in for that for sure. All right, Ryan, this was an awesome conversation. So many takeaways, especially that eye-opening marketing is going to support that workforce issue. I'm stuck on that in my brain. That was an awesome piece of insight from you. Thank you so much for joining, man.
You bet, man. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. A reminder to please subscribe to our channels, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. This is the Veterans Who Build show. See you all soon. Take care. Thank you to our channel sponsors, Jet.Build. If you're looking for ways to better manage your real estate development and construction projects, look no further. Jet is the command center software for end-to-end real estate development and construction management. That's www.jet.build.